Hey, Sully, how are you this morning?
We're struggling, man. It's kind of that mid-season where we're grinding. We got basketball, swimming, track, wrestling on the brain. So trying to just keep everything organized.
Yeah, well,
at times it can overwhelm you.
Yeah, I guess you could say that this is kind of the dog days of the winter season. It's early February. The light of the tournaments is just beginning to start to shine. So you hear my voice. I'm a little hoarse. People have been in gyms all winter. You got a little cold going, but you got to persevere through.
Our endurance is being tested, no doubt.
Exactly.
Find out how much we did in the off season.
Exactly. Off-season training is key right now.
So what's going on, man? You all eagled up?
Am I eagled up? I'm ready for the game tomorrow. I know I have a lot of friends who are Eagles fans, and I can sometimes have a cantankerous relationship with them on Twitter during Eagles games. However, tomorrow I am going to behave myself and wish nothing but the best for my many friends who root for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mike, what do you think was the best Super Bowl you ever saw?
Well, to me, the best Super Bowl that I ever saw, and it involves the team playing tomorrow, the most memorable Super Bowl that I've seen growing up in New York and being a New York Giants fan is, I guess it would be, I think it's the 2007 Super Bowl when the Giants beat the 16-0 Patriots, the Tyree catch.
Right.
Eli Manning, the Plaxico Burress in the final minute of the game, ruining the Patriots' perfect season. To me, that's the most memorable Super Bowl, that I have. The first Super Bowl I remember is, I think it was Super Bowl IV, which was the Minnesota Vikings and the
Super Bowl
Kansas City
IV.
Chiefs. Super Bowl IV in 1970, I believe.
We're at 52 now, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a little scary. What I remember about Super Bowl IV is I believe the halftime show featured like some sort of revolutionary soldiers or something like that, or a band dressed as revolutionary soldiers. So that's what sort of sticks in my mind. So that's the first Super Bowl I remember is Super Bowl IV. And probably one of the best Super Bowl memories I have is the Giants beating the undefeated Patriots a couple of years ago.
Didn't they used to have just like a college marching band or something at Super Bowl halftimes?
Yeah, absolutely. Or Up With People, some sort of schmaltzy, sort of a variety show type of halftime entertainment. So it's only until I guess the last 10, 15, 20 years that they've had kind of major stars do the halftime Super Bowl act.
Well, kind of shows you the generational gap here at the South Jersey Sports Report, Mike. I was telling Cole that the first one I remember really was the Raiders-Eagles back in '81, I guess it was.
Right,
and,
right.
So I said, Cole, what's the first Super Bowl you remember? He's like, when was that John Elway one? I was like, 98.
Yeah, the John Elway one where he kind of spins sideways and runs for a first down and stuff like that, yeah.
I think the best one to me was the Joe Montana comeback against the Bengals.
Yeah, that was a great one.
87, something like that? 88?
Yeah, I want to say 87, 88, maybe 89, right around there. That was a great one. And that was, I'm old enough to the last couple of years, the Super Bowls have been great games. Last year, of course, the Patriots come back from a 28-3 deficit.
Yeah.
Usually they're close games. But for a while there, the Super Bowls were, just some sort of lopsided games that were over in the first or second quarter. That's basically not the case anymore, and it should be another close game tomorrow.
I once lost out on winning $300 because Stan Humphries threw a pick six with like a minute and a half to go.
Well, there you go on your little box pools, and everybody's looking at their numbers.
I'm like, yes, I'm 300. They're going to run the clock out, and the Chargers were down by like 20 points, and I'm like, what are you doing, Humphries? Come on.
Yeah, you get all pumped up if you got a 7 and a 0 or a 7 and a 3, and you get all depressed if you draw like a 5 and a 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, it's part of the fun of the day.
So, Mike, let's dive into some high school basketball. Obviously, the Battle by the Bay, you've been covering this for years, I'm assuming, and always a cool event tomorrow when you have that Atlantic City Pleasantville. Should be a little interesting to see how that atmosphere plays out at Stockton.
Yeah, it should be a real interesting game tomorrow. I mean, Pleasantville 11-6 this season, kind of on the rise a little bit. Divine Anderson, senior point guard, Samir Jones joining him in the backcourt. Jacob Valus, an impressive sophomore inside. So Pleasantville, in the midst of a good season. And, quite frankly, they're going to play an Atlantic City team that's kind of been struggling. I mean, Atlantic City, if you talk about a contrast of emotions or a contrast of a season in just a couple days. Last Saturday, Atlantic City goes up to Rancocas Valley, beats a very good Trenton Catholic team, 85-82. Atlantic City looks great doing it. They're all pumped up afterwards. Then Tuesday, they go to St. Augustine, commit 18 turnovers in the first half, and lose that game. Marlon Hargis of St. Augustine with a great game, 31 points. And then last night, Atlantic City kind of, looked out of sorts from the start, a weird sort of disjointed effort by them, and they lose to Sanford of Delaware by 13 points. So, Atlantic City goes into that game against Pleasantville on Sunday reeling a little bit, and the Pleasantville team that, is kind of looking for their first win over Atlantic City since, I believe, 2008.
Yeah, I got to believe Coach Allen's getting in the year of his boys today, man. The last thing he wants to do is lose to Pleasantville, man. That's it's hard to show your face around town when you lose to Pleasantville. And the same way for, the Greyhounds. They don't want to lose to Atlantic City. So just a great basketball rivalry there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a game. I often say it's kind of a celebration of the two communities. There's so much emotion in the game, and people know each other on both sides. Like Nazim Derry, the Atlantic City point guard, and Divine Anderson, the Pleasantville point guard, are cousins. They grew up together, played a lot on the same youth teams growing up. It's kind of a game that exists in its own world. I mean, it's nothing. It doesn't influence anything that comes after it. It's not influenced by anything that comes before it. I mean, I think one of the interesting things that I kind of wrote about this week is, the Battle by the Bay started in 1995, and you talk about time and people not remembering things. But when the Battle by the Bay first started, Pleasantville was the main attraction. They were the big show. They were the game that everybody wanted to see. They beat Atlantic City those first 3 years, and I think after 9 years, held a 5-4 edge in the series. But obviously, Atlantic City has dominated since then and holds a 16-6 edge now.
And talk about Mike McGarry, press for Atlantic City. Mike, early in the show, we had on Coach John Bruno from Ocean City, and I don't think anybody thought we'd be saying on February 3rd that Ocean City is the hottest team in the Cape Atlantic League.
No, they're playing well, and they've got a big week coming up. I mean, I believe they've got, in that national division, and you talk about the Cape Atlantic League tournament where the first and second place teams in each of the three divisions get an automatic spot into the tournament. Ocean City right now, and I believe in second place behind Lower Cape May, but a big week for the Red Raiders coming up with a game against Lower Cape May on Wednesday and then Holy Spirit on Friday. So, it's a big week for Ocean City. And as you said, a team that, graduated a lot of standouts from last year, brought back some players, but we kind of thought this would be a rebuilding season for the Red Raiders. Instead, they're right there. And, and you look at that Cape Atlantic League National Division with Lower, Ocean City, and Holy Spirit, you almost got three teams battling for two spots in the CAL tournament. And this week is going to go a long way towards determining who those two teams are.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about basketball, Mike, is how quickly it can change. I mean, last week we were probably thinking Atlantic City has a lock on the number one seed, then St. Augustine comes back and beats them. Now they look like maybe the favorite for that top spot, and you have teams that, may even contend for a sectional title who might not even make the Cal tournament. Talk about teams like a Pleasantville or like a Millville, like a St. Joe. These teams, who knows, they might be that 9th or 10th team that just doesn't get in there, and some pretty good teams are going to be left out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you look this week again, the Cape Atlantic League tournament starts February 16th, so this week you'll see a lot of things shake out. In a big game Thursday, February 8th at Stockton, Wildwood Catholic versus Atlantic City. You could almost say the winner of that game, could, clinch the top seed for the tournament, and you want to be the top seed, I think, in that tournament, because I think everybody would agree that Wildwood Catholic, St. Augustine, and Atlantic City are kind of a little bit ahead of the other teams in the league. And, if you're the 2 or 3 seed, you're going to be playing one of those teams in the in the semifinals, which means you're going to have to beat 2 of the 3 to win a CAL title.
Right.
If you're the number 1 seed, you're only going to have to beat 1 out of the 3. So that's why that top seed is important. And you'll see Wildwood Catholic versus Atlantic City on Thursday night. That's a huge game for both teams as far as Cape Atlantic League seeding goes.
And, Mike, we got a little bit of South Jersey Sports Report trivia here for you. Kylee Watson tied the mainland single-game scoring record last night with 36 against Cedar Creek. Whose record did she tie?
I saw that last night, and give me a hint. Give me one hint. Give me a hint.
She's related to the guy sitting across from me.
Well, I'll guess the last name is Raring.
Alex Raring, yep. Right,
exactly, yeah. Great effort. It's a great effort by Kylee, and continuing, mainland rolling on 17-0. We talk about, who's going to be the number 1 seed in the boys CAL tournament. Well, when it comes to girls, there's no doubt about who the number 1 seed is. It's mainland regional, and a team that, right now will have a lot of expectations come, February, when not only the CAL tournament starts, but when the South Jersey Group 3 tournament starts. A mainland kind of the favorite in Group 3, and obviously living up to all the preseason expectations so far with another big win over what is really a pretty good Cedar Creek team last night. It's
interesting, Mike, to see her development when talking about Kylee Watson. She kind of deferred a little bit last year to those older girls on the team. Didn't want to rock the boat too much. Everybody knew how talented she was, but seems to me like she got a lot of confidence this summer by being on that Team USA U16 squad and really showing all her skills this year, become a lot more aggressive.
Well, yeah, obviously the time she spent, with the USA team, with playing high-level AAU, Hobson, and I just think she's a year older, and she's kind of accepted. We saw this in the Gloucester Catholic game where she kind of, made a lot of big plays for mainland down the stretch. When you're the best player on the team, which she is, there are games where she's going to have to score, take a lot of shots, force the action. That's part of being the best player on the team. And she's definitely more comfortable in that role this year as a sophomore than she was last year. So that's just part of the, part of her growing up and part of her kind of realizing what she's capable of doing in a regular high school game and stuff like that. And that's when you're the best player on the team, it's her job to go in there. When they need 30, she's got to get 30. If they need 32, she's got to get 32. She's got to score the points, to whatever mainland needs for them to win.
And Mike, we talked about the boys Cal tournament. The girls should be just as interesting. Obviously, mainland 17-0 is the favorite going in, but there's some pretty good teams that are going to challenge them. When you talk about Ocean City, obviously has played them well the last couple of years, but we haven't talked too much about Millville. They've been playing really well, and Holy Spirit's been coming on strong. So not going to be a cakewalk by any means for the Mustangs.
No, and you look at, Millville team, Alexis Harrison last night scored her 1,000th career point. It's a Millville team that at this point, I'd put them at number 2 seed in the Cape Atlantic League bracket, and the Millville team that plays a big game with Atlantic City on Monday. An Atlantic City team that should have Tahira Howard, the transfer from ACIT. She should be up and playing for AC by then. Her eligibility questions have been cleared up, so she should be playing, and that'll be a big game. And then you hit it like Ocean City, Middle, and Holy Spirit have all had their moments against each other, beating each other and looking good at different times. You got an Atlantic City team with Howard and Sienna Red, the 2 transfers that it's going to be, maybe a 6 or 7 seed, but it's going to be a pretty dangerous 7 seed because of, they're not the same team that they were in December when they lost some games that might put them at number 7. So, and then you've got Wildwood Catholic with the great freshmen down there, can't be overlooked. So it should be a fun Cape Atlantic, even though you would say mainland is the favorite going in and a clear-cut favorite, but, it should be some good, it should be some entertaining games played in that girls tournament.
Mike, we're hearing some whistles in the background. A little 5th grade basketball going on?
A little high school rec going on right now. A little early morning high school rec basketball, yes.
Nice.
Here and now, nothing better.
Mike, before we let you get going, as a sports reporter, give us your quick breakdown in 30 seconds of the Super Bowl. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think, I don't want to scare my Eagle fan friends, but I think the Eagles are better on both sides of the ball, offensive, defensive lines. I think, at some of the skill positions, they have guys who can make plays. I think it's kind of, been the Eagles' sort of year. A lot of things have gone their way. The only thing that is, the only caveat to that is, they're going up against the greatest quarterback and the greatest coach in NFL history. So I think if Nick Foles can play the way he played against the Vikings and not commit some key turnovers and not make some big mistakes, I think the Eagles could win the game, let's say 24-21 over the Patriots.
There you go. There's Mike McGarry's prediction, 24-21 Eagles. Appreciate it, man. Have a great weekend, right, Mike, and enjoy the Super Bowl.
You too. I'll see you down the road, Sully. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, man. That was Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City.